Okay, this is the last video before the pour. Today is Wednesday. We have an inspection by the City of Berkeley building inspector tomorrow, and this is the first time in 13 years that I've actually been finished with the forming before a final panic minutes before the concrete truck shows up. I'm actually 2 days ahead of schedule, which is just mind-boggling to me. I've never done it before. I don't know what just happened. That might be a bad omen. But as you can see, there's a lot of bracing. All the rebar's in. My engineer came yesterday. He checked the rebar. That's the hard inspection, usually. He thought it looked great. Sometimes engineers are brutal. This guy was really cool. I hope to always use him again. One thing that's kind of crazy is that if you look at all of these pink plastic clips, these are what are called J-bolt holders or anchor bolt holders. We buy the clips; they're reusable. This bracket here, they're like $2 each, but they're worth every penny because otherwise you have to come up with some other kind of contraption. Some method for suspending the anchor bolts, because they are what hold the bottom plate to the foundation. Now, the thing that's completely insane about this job, and this is supposedly a new code thing, is that normally the number of anchor bolts that you need to put in, about 1 every 4 feet. That's the standard deal. Like if you were going to do a voluntary earthquake upgrade on your own house, you pop a anchor bolt in, not to exceed 4 feet spacing, you're good to go. On this job, I have anchor bolts every 16 inches. That's a first for me, and it is completely crazy. And in addition to that, over here at our little plywood table, we have hold downs that go in. This is a hold down. You put one of these on either side of a shear wall, and they mount to a post with a whole bunch of screws, these giant lag screws that I don't have an example of to show you, but each one of those holes gets filled with a lag screw, goes up against the side of a post, and then this guy, instead of a normal J-bolt, which is this, that just holds the plate down, this squiggly bolt goes up inside the hold down, and that anchors it down to the foundation. After the pour, you drill a hole through the top plate. This goes through the top plate. You put this big square washer on, and then a nut. So you start adding this stuff up. These are $13. These are $30. We need 30 of them, of each. Anchor bolts, they're like $4 each, because now we have to use galvanized because of the new formulation and pressure treated, and these things are like $1 something. We have about 160 of those, and 100 of these. Starts to get a little bit, just a little bit intimidating when you start to price out a job and you forget the stuff. So these guys, Byron and Rolando, they're putting in this 4-inch flashing. And this is kind of interesting. Since we're pouring the, we're going to go up here to demonstrate it. They're camera shy. Since we're pouring a stem wall after the slab goes in, there's going to be a cold joint between the wall and the slab, and so I'm putting this piece of sheet metal in halfway into the slab, halfway up in the stem wall, and it'll act as a dam for water passing through. It'll hit that, it won't actually drip into the slab, because water always likes to go through a cold joint. That's in addition to the waterproofing membrane we have on the outside. It's just an overkill thing. I just don't want any water getting in the bottom, especially given this hillside we're up against and the amount of water pushing through this clay. Then the other thing is we have this. This is a piece of copper wire, and if you follow that down, you'll see it follows the bottom bar in the foundation. It goes over here, all the way over. It's called a Ufer ground. It's named after this engineer who invented it. It takes the place of the normal ground rod that everyone else has in their house. We actually have a ground rod over here. It's near the plumbing, which is where it always is. This is right here, that's a copper rod driven into the ground, and that's what the electrical system gets grounded to, but they determined that that is no longer good enough, and now whenever you do a foundation upgrade, if you pour more than 30 feet of foundation, you have to put in a U for ground. It's just part of the deal. And in Berkeley, they let me put the U for ground in, which takes about 20 minutes, and you just tie it on with ties. But in San Francisco, you have to get an electrical permit, and you have to use approved clamps. And it's a great way for San Francisco to generate more fees. Over here, it costs 20 bucks for the wire. In San Francisco, by the time you get the electrical permit and you have an electrician do it, and you get the clamps, you're in $200-300 bucks. It's ridiculous. So, just one more pass. Here's the here's some bracing. We put this giant leftover beam in the ground to brace against because I just hate bracing against earth. It's just not great. And oh, here we go. These one-sided forms that I was complaining about earlier, we have just a hodgepodge of bracing because we can't brace them down to the cribs. And I hope it holds. That's all I can say. We're gonna know on Friday. And this is just about the nicest day we've had. And it's gonna rain on Friday. So that might be the good omen to balance out the ahead of schedule issue. And well, we'll let you know how it goes. Maybe we'll set up a tripod and you can hear us swearing at each other. All right, later.